this is Susan Givens. I'm the publisher of AutoSuccess, and I have my good friend Ashlee Church with us today. Ashlee is the general manager at Volkswagen of Marion and director of marketing at Ike Honda. How are you? Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Susan. I know we've got to chat back and forth, and so excited to be here with you and your viewers today.
Well, I just have to know, how did you get into the automotive industry?
Oh boy. So, I am from a family-owned business, and I'm third generation in the business. And my family gives out a 10-year service award. So I started working at the dealership when I was 14 years old. I worked full time over the summers. I worked any extra hours I could, always during school. And I always swore that I would never get a 10-year plaque from my family's company. So at 9 years and 7 months, I finished my MBA and I thought that I had exited the car business forever, only to find out about 2 years later that it kind of drew me back in. And that's the point where we really started soliciting the Volkswagen franchise for an open point. And I came back to work at our Honda store. And then in 2013, we were awarded a new open Volkswagen point. And 2014, I was lucky enough to be the first employee of Volkswagen of Marion. And as a lot of us in the car business say, when we came here, we didn't plan to stay here long term, and it just kind of happened that way.
And no one leaves the car business. Like, we're always in the automotive business.
Right.
That's so funny. Okay, so your family dealership is definitely been well established in the community. How does that affect your culture in just your everyday, day to day?
For me, and I think that one thing that's really easy to get lost sight of in the car business when we have month to month financial statements, the pressure that's put on general managers of dealerships to deliver 12 times a year, I think that we lose sight of the long term value of a customer. And my grandfather started selling cars in the 60s. He had his first dealership in Indiana, and then later moved over to Illinois. And a couple months back, I had a customer in for service. I ended up canceling a couple vendor appointments because I just wanted to sit and chat with her. She was a customer who started buying cars from my grandfather in Vincennes, Indiana, 3 to 4 hours away from where we live now, who has followed my grandfather that long and bought cars from him over the years. So as a general manager, and whenever I talk to my leadership teams and my teams in the dealership, it is so critically important for us to understand the lifetime value of a customer, to understand that there are times when we've got to dig into our pockets a little bit to retain a customer, not just for this car, but for the future cars, for the referrals. And that's really key, and something that's he started that was so important to him. In terms of our staffing in the dealership, I'm also lucky to be one of the few women in the country who gets to work with her mom. So my mom is the dealer principal of both our Honda and Volkswagen stores. And, that's really unique too. And that brings a different culture to the dealership as well. At our Volkswagen store, we are closing in on 40% female employees across the dealership. Our sales team generally hovers, right around a third to 40% women. And we're also close to 50% women on our leadership team in the Volkswagen store as well. So it really starts at the top and trickles down. And we're able to, recruit, a staff that looks like and, feels like our customer base whenever they come in, so that we're able to really serve them. And it's so important for retention. And, we talk about flexibility in the industry and all those things. And, growing up in the car business, I was here all the time when I was a kid. So now it's really exciting to me to be able to provide an environment for our employees where if they've got an hour lapse in childcare, that their kid can get dropped off at the dealership and they can run around the showroom and they can crawl in and out of the cars and draw pictures at the receptionist desk. And those are the things that I did when I was a kid. So I don't see them as a disruption to our business. One of my sales manager, Erica, just had her daughter Joy in today. And, that's been able to provide a really cool culture where you really have a family environment, where you really focus on taking care of the customer. And I think that those are the two key things. Yes, the metal is important, the inventory, the metrics, the CRM, all those things are important in our business. But the two key things we really have to focus on are our employees and our customers.
And Joy's little daughter or son, they could be your future employees too. So
Yeah,
they're learning
exactly.
how flexible and how fun it can be to come to work. So, and bravo to you on that. I think that's so important, especially, going into 2022 with all the changes that we've had the past couple of years, just that you guys are flexible and that, it seems like you're very family oriented throughout the whole dealerships. So,
Yeah,
um, so here's another really fun topic. So we met on social media. We have a lot of the same peers in the automotive industry. How do you feel like that's connected you with just this whole big world of automotive?
I love it. You're able to meet so many people from so many different backgrounds, not just the same brand, but all different brands, all walks of life, metro markets, rural markets. Just last week, I messaged someone and said, hey, I saw a picture of a form that you posted online. Can you send me a copy of that? Things that are that insignificant actually play a huge role. But even more than that, my personal mission is to change the stereotype of the car business, both for our customers and for our employees. And for me, it's really awesome to be providing, this great place to work that then we're able to, talk about on social media and, provide as a good example. And, there's nothing more satisfying than, waking up in the morning and checking your messages. And the first thing you see is a message in your inbox from someone saying something like, I just started in the car business and it's awesome to see a woman GM and, what steps can I take, to maybe get to a sales manager someday. And being able to provide those connections across the country. I've got a gentleman from a Honda dealership up north who's always messaging me, walked him off a couple cliffs, sometimes. And, those are really fun. Those are times that I get to give back to others. But there are so many groups and so many great people that willingly give so much great information online, whether it's through their Facebook Lives or in their groups. And it's really cool to be able to connect with those people on social media. And then whenever you're at a conference or NADA or something like that comes around, you're able to meet those people in person and you already have a connection with those people. So networking also speeds up because you're able to meet people online. And then when you meet people in person, and, as someone who worked in the business for a long time, but then became a general manager and I'm the first employee in my store, I've heavily leaned on other people within the industry, whether it's in fixed operations or, whether we're scratching our head at what to do at inventory situations or looking for better processes in our CRM. If you go into any of these groups, there's groups that specialize in these things and there's so much great information and so many wonderful people that you can connect with. And I kind of look at it almost like a puzzle. So you take different pieces from different people. So there are certain things that I've learned from my grandfather that I feel like I aren't as important to some of the people in the business today. And those are pieces that are important to me. But just like that, there's different connections where you learn things about your CRM or your inventory or service and parts. And you really put all those pieces together over time. And it's really cool how many people are involved on social that are willing to freely give that information, to their connections. So I really love all the connections that we're able to build, within our networks today.
It almost takes like the social media is kind of like the new 20 group. It kind of expands what, a 20 group used to do. And I think it's still very important, but it gives you some immediate answers right away. So that's great.
Sure.
It's a good tip for people out there right now who, haven't maybe found that right network to kind of search throughout social media. Are there any forums or like groups that you belong to that you could recommend to anyone here listening?
Oh goodness. There are so many of the, like for instance, everyone's talking about used cars right now. There's a really great used car manager group online. I think, looking at your connections and who is in those groups and being able to kind of dive down into that, or if there's a specific group that you're looking for, you can send me a message on social media and I can try and connect you with a different group. But there's so many of them that it's hard to narrow it down to just one or two.
Yep. Well, there's so many resources out there. Okay, so 2022 is how it's, I think, going to be pretty awesome. We had a rough 2020 into 2021, but good for the car industry. But how's your inventory going?
Oh, I mean, there's no secret, inventory surplus in Southern Illinois. It's difficult for all of us. There's just no doubt about that. We're seeing less new car inventory than we've ever seen on our lot. We're having to adapt daily. In the dealership, we've really had to focus on turning that inventory as quick as we possibly can, because that's how we earn more behind it. And as crazy as it sounds, I keep having to remind our reps that we don't want cars on the ground right now, because the dealers who have cars on the ground aren't the dealers who are earning cars for the future right now, just by how turn and earn with most manufacturers. And obviously it's different for each manufacturer, but with Volkswagen, everything is based on turn right now. So the minute those vehicles get on the truck, we need to get them delivered. And, there's a couple pieces of it. We've had to look at different things internally. We've had to change up our vehicle merchandising to make sure that all of our in-transit inventory shows up online. And to do that to our third-party providers and things of that nature has really been a lot of manual processes that we've had to create and monitor in the stores, so that we can make sure that that inventory is available and that customers can see that we have inventory in the pipeline whenever they come to our website. And, we've also had to really focus from the customer experience on pipeline selling. And I just have one of our local newspapers here today talking about, hey, we don't see any vehicles on the lot. Does that mean that you're not selling any? And I think that, we really need to educate consumers that we're actually still selling a very decent volume of new cars right now. There's no doubt that it's an impact. But if you're just a normal customer who's not working in the car business every day and you're driving up and down looking at these dealers' lots, it would be very easy for your perception to be that they don't have any cars to sell. The reality is just they never make it to the front line, because we're delivering them as soon as they come off the truck. So that's really been an education process with the customer that starts from, the big media that we do, but also in our individual conversations with our customers. And we've really had to change the expectations of what a showroom visit looks like now. So instead of, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, we're going to come in today, we're going to look at all 12 trim levels in this vehicle. We've got 18 different color combinations, and we're going to pick out which one you're going to take home today. Now the conversation has turned almost more to a consultative way of selling, where we invite the customer in to come review our pipeline. And if we don't find anything in the pipeline, to look at the potential of ordering a vehicle. And so we've had to change those conversations with customers so that then we can manage their expectations. And the other key part of it is we don't want to run them out of the market. We don't want them to feel like whenever they inquire with us or whenever they see our bare lot that you can't get a new car right now, because that's simply not true. It's just a different way of doing things. And it's been really important for us, to be able to educate the customer throughout that journey.
I agree with you 100%. Education is so important to our consumers. So to go back to one of the things you said earlier about, just women in the industry, what advice would you give a young woman moving up the ladder in the automotive industry just to be successful?
I tell everyone I'm a realist, right? And I got in trouble once for telling someone that they needed to have tough skin. As a woman, that can be taken so many different ways. And I never mean by that you're going to have to tolerate discrimination or anything like that. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to earn your stripes. There might be a time that you have to work twice as hard as everyone else. But on the flip side of that, I feel like we're able to break down those barriers with our customers so much quicker. Customers are scared to come in dealerships. They have a stereotype in their head of what it's going to be like, what the person that they're going to be working with is like. Maybe the last, person or several people hasn't been a good experience. And whenever you're able to greet a customer as a woman, sometimes you can just bring that barrier down so much more quickly. So while there are hardships, there are also things that there are benefits to being a woman in automotive. And I would also encourage that person to make sure that you're at the right dealership. Dealerships, and I hate this, but your success will vary widely depending on the type of dealership that you're at. You want to be at a dealership where you see other women, especially in leadership roles, where you can find mentors within the organization. And yes, there are women who are very successful who don't have that and who have to work up and who have to do the grind, all that. And I'm not advocating that you leave if you're in that situation, but early on in your career, you should very much be determining if the organization that you're working with is going to be good for you long term. Because I'll be honest, right? There's good dealerships to work for, and then there's not such great dealerships to work for. And your experience in this industry is going to be very much tied to what kind of store you're working in. And, also whether it's in the dealership, it's great to have a mentor in the dealership, but finding a mentor outside the dealership. And earlier we were talking about social connections and networks, and that's just such a great way to be able to reach out to other people. And sometimes it's really important to have someone in your corner who's not in the day-to-day of your dealership. Sometimes there are questions or certain things that you want to ask someone that's just really not the right time or place to be asking people within your organization. Sometimes there's something that you need to discuss that's a confidential nature. And I've talked to many women who don't feel like they have someone in the dealership that they can talk to like that, where it won't be repeated or where they won't be judged. So again, it's so important to have someone outside the dealership. And at the end of the day, if this is really your true career goal, it can be so rewarding, but you've really got to stick with it, because it doesn't matter what your gender is. Automotive is difficult. And it's not an easy industry to just, walk in and just boom, 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 climb the ladder. There's a lot of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears that are required. And so you've really just gotta be able to stick it out as well.
Ashlee, thank you so much for taking the time to
You're
speak with us
welcome.
today. I'm so inspired by what you're doing in the automotive industry, and hopefully I get to meet you face to face at NADA this year.
Absolutely. I'm going to be coming. So that's great that we'll get to connect. Thank you so much, Susan, for having me. It's always a pleasure to share, and look forward to talking with you more soon.
Thank you.